Hey y'all, what's going on? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to In Conversation. Thank you for coming back for another week to join me. I feel like, I look so different. I feel extra glam today. Whenever I change my hair, it feels so like, whoa. But yes, thank you guys for joining again. Today, my guest is a super dope individual. Currently, she is a corporate strategist for inclusion and diversity, which is super, super important now. It's always been important, but it's definitely getting a lot of acclaim now. So we will be talking with Ezinne K today. Well, I'll be talking with Ezinne, but definitely ask you guys to join in, ask questions. What's up, Axon Jackson? Thank you so much for tuning in. But yeah, today is going to be a really cool conversation. Really just want to hear about Ezinne's journey, how she got to where she is, her inspiration, and kind of just really figuring out what her path is. So she will be a dope guest. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I have a little bit of a scratchy throat, so you might see me grab some tea. I think it's allergies, a change of seasons. But it's going to be good. We're going to rock out. It'll be great. I have my glasses on today because I was having some eye issues. So, all these things. But we're here. Super glad to be here. Hey, Mark, what's going on? Thank you, guys. Hey, Rhonda. Thank you for joining. Pardon the music. I live in the front of the building, so you may hear traffic. You may hear all these things going by, such as life in Harlem. Yeah, it's going to be a great day. I think Ezinne just joined. What's going on, Ezinne? Let me go ahead and add her in. Let's see. Oh, let me see. She's unable to join for some reason. Okay. Cool. Hey, Ez. Okay, let me see. I don't know why you're unable to join. Why is that happening? I didn't touch anything. I haven't done anything with my settings, so hopefully we'll be okay. It's telling me you're unable to join on my end. Let me know, Ezinne, if you're still having issues. I can try to loop you back in. Hey, everybody. Deandra. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining. We're going to loop Ezinne in real quick. I think Instagram might be giving us some technical difficulties right now. I don't know why, but we'll see. Let's see, Rakia, hey, how are you? Thank you for joining. Cool. Hopefully you guys are doing okay today. In New York, we have this change of season. So it was like warm last week, then it got really cold, and now it's like kind of warm again. So fall basically was like, I'm here. All right, here, let's go. All right. And Ezinne, let's see how it goes. Cool. Hey, Ezinne.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. So I'm on my phone. I'm supposed to be on my laptop. I don't know what happened. But here we are.
Okay, well, no problem. Here,
You look really cute. I love your hair, your glasses,
thank you.
background.
The change of seasons. I was like, let's straighten the hair, see how it looks.
Looks really nice.
Probably in at least 6 months or more. So it's like a huge difference. But
Okay.
Okay, here, I'm gonna go ahead and pin this post. So how are you today?
The morning started off well, and then I was watching the news, of course, and I just heard about the indictment and the charges for one of the officers
Yeah.
in the Breonna Taylor case and murder, which, I think it kind of brought my mood down a little bit more. I think it's just, in the Black community and the brown community, we keep fighting for justice, and it seems like we can never get there. And I consider myself to be a very neutral, unbiased person. So I really had to go deep in, if anyone saw my stories, and research to understand how the prosecutors even got to this charge
Yeah.
and why they went with this versus something else. And it's all about, it's a lot. I think politics is involved. It's super conservative parties, and I think this is why it's even so critical that we really pay attention to how we vote, especially on the local level, and making sure that we are really in tune with what's going on. And it was really disappointing to see I knew it was going to be hard for them to do a homicide, but at least thought maybe second degree, third degree, something. But I mean, to come up with this is, it just feels like another slap in the face. So just another blow for us in the community. So,
Yeah.
but otherwise, I am okay. How are
Okay. You
you?
look, by the way, I love your
Thank
wrap.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me try to position this, and then if the battery's dying, I'll charge it.
Okay. I'm good though. I'm good, but I agree with what you said just in terms of voting. I know yesterday was National Voter Registration Day.
Yes.
So for sure, if any of you guys are watching and haven't registered to vote, please, please do. I saw something recently that said that it's not either vote, it's not vote or protest, it's both. Because you
Yes.
make your voice heard on the streets when you're protesting, but you have to have the individuals in place in these offices in the government to really help push through, your voice.
And I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to say this is the same thing that I feel about cancel culture, right? Because you can't just create a hashtag that says cancel culture, but that we're not part of the solutioning and we're not driving the change and the accountability. So it's the same thing. I remember the days where I was on the front lines and I was protesting, I was fighting for justice as well. But what made it more impactful is that when I became more savvy and had a space of influence and I knew what was going on in my community, I took that to the polls. I took that to the Congress. I took that and kind of fought for it more. So I think as much as we are protesting, which I definitely believe in, I think we need to do that. But I think we need to also make sure we show up. Like we got to show up where it counts the most, because being a hashtag, doing council culture is only going to get so far. But then if the media decides to move on to something else, then where does that put you? So.
Exactly. So true. That's so, so true. So I think you were talking about cancel culture and stuff like that. And part of me says, at least on a brand side, that what like your working in inclusion and diversity kind of for a brand could be beneficial. Like you have this, helping to build this awareness, like, hey, it's not just, the people at the top. It's not just their culture and those aren't the only people we're reflecting.
Mhm.
It's all of that. So if we could get into, I guess, what motivates you just in the space of inclusion and diversity and how'd you get here?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really about purpose. When I was probably at a great point in my career working at MTV, and I was there for 11 and a half years. So you can imagine, like, I must have been doing something well, right? I must have liked something about it to be there for that long. And
Yeah.
it was fantastic. It was great to be in that space. But what I realized is that I wanted to be in a space of more purposeful work and
Mm,
really go home and feel like I made an impact somewhere. So I was trying to figure out, like, how do I do that? And I was getting more and more into people strategy anyway. And that's how I got really into diversity inclusion, really put my foot out there and raise my hand, volunteering to do everything under the sun. I went back to school. I went to NYU. I got a degree in leadership and org development, and I was studying change management as well. And I think that all of those things is what equips me to now be a true expert in diversity and inclusion. I think we use the term diversity and inclusion, but it's so much bigger than probably what people think about what it is every day. So I think that that's how I got there. And it's as much as it's so much work and is really tasking, I am so confident in knowing that I'm making true impact in the organizations that I'm a part of, and the work that we're doing at H&M, and the work that was happening even outside of that, just in the community and in the organizations that I work with. That's what is beneficial for me, and that's what I love about it.
right. Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. How did you, at least for the companies who were maybe less focused on diversity and inclusion, how did you make a case for, this is important? Like you have to pay attention to this. What sort of, I guess, empowered you to speak up in those spaces where people really didn't understand?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is really the people, the customers, right? Because each company's goal is to be profitable. And
Mm-hmm.
if your clients and your customers are demanding something from you, you need to listen to them. And
Right.
you need to shift how you're working. So the same way that what you were doing 10 years ago is not really what you're going to be doing today, because it's not going to be sustainable. So I think that that's really what companies are starting to see more too. And I really do believe that like companies want to do well. Like no one wants to be in the news for something crazy. No one wants to be part of cancel culture. No
Right.
one wants to be where people are like burning down your bill. No one wants that, right? But in order for you to realize how to solution against that is that you need to listen. Like you need to listen and be prepared to create an action and not just be prepared to respond, and when you're responding is performative, because then people can sniff that out immediately, like this is bullshit, they're not serious, and then you will still be someone that they don't patronize. And you're starting to see that a lot too, I think, with like a lot of marketing agencies. And I think I was reading recently like 21% or so have now been doing more impactful social marketing than
Mm,
they've ever done before. And if I reflect back to the places that I worked in previously, we were never talking about race. We were never talking about politics. I mean, you talked about, okay, this is an election day, but like now companies are actually closing businesses
yeah.
and giving people time off in order to vote. So the world is changing. So really the question is, what part of history do you want to be part of? You know, are you going to be on the right side of history, or are you going to keep pretending as if nothing's happening? And I think that that's
Right.
the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, can we go back? I just would love for you to share your story, like sort of how you even got to here, where you from, all of that.
Girl, this story of mine, I don't, sometimes I don't even know. I'm like, how did you even get
Your
to where
story,
you
I
are?
find such inspiration. Like, what? She did that? I never even,
Oh,
I feel the same way. So, I
well,
love,
because that's the other hard thing too, is even talking about yourself. Because I'm like, I don't know, like I'm just, I mean, you know me too, Nicole. Like
yeah,
I'm just working, and I'm just being who I am and making sure that I am contributing to society. I mean,
yeah,
that I feel like that's really, and doing that with intention, doing that with grace, doing that with excellence. So I think for me, I am being who I am. So I think it's so interesting when people try to ask like, what's your story and what's your journey? I'm like, okay, well, I can take you back. I can take you back, and hopefully there's some inspiration in it. I think it's also the humility in me, where it's you know, come from very humble beginnings. Was born in Nigeria. We came here as immigrants. You know, I came here at the age of 6, and with my mom stayed behind. So I actually came here with my mom's siblings,
mm,
which are majority men. So I was this 6-year old
wow,
with my 20-year-old, my uncles that are in their 20s. So imagine what you were doing in your 20s.
right,
Imagine if you had a 6-year-old to take care of every day in a new country.
yeah,
And so we moved to the Bronx. So we lived in the Bronx. I'm a New Yorker through and through. And while we were there, I think what was so interesting when I think back at that is I'm from the inner city. You know, there is no glamorous story, working parents, working household. I remember a lot of people in my family actually end up, they're actually in the medical field in different levels. So not like all doctors, but doctors, nurses, aides, etc. And I just remember them working around the clock. And I think for me, it was, I saw that there is, you got to work hard for what you want and
right,
for a certain type of lifestyle that you want to have. And you need to create legacy for your family and for your future children. And then that's really what my family showed me. And then living in the Bronx, living in the inner city, it was all about the hustle. You know, it's kind of like you needed to be street smart as well as book smart, and I'm a product of New York City public school. So again, there's no fancy education that comes behind that. And I was able to get admitted to Howard University,
mhm,
where I think really helped shape the future of what Ezinne started to develop and to be. And also too, growing up, I hated the fact that, you know, my name was Ezinne. I hated the fact that it was just different. You know, when you're in high school, you just want to be like everybody else. I'm also too, I'm on the taller side. I'm a tall girl. So you're in high school, everyone is shorter than you. It was just the whole thing.
yeah,
So to kind of look at where I am now, it's pretty, you know, it's pretty amazing, but I credit all of it to really being diligent and being authentic and just pushing myself forward, and studied accounting after I went to Howard, got a traditional accounting job in a top accounting firm. And
mm,
I really did that just to get a job. I mean, I knew that I wasn't going to stay in that company long. And then I wanted to come back to New York. and networking with people and just talking to people about different companies that I can go to. And someone said to check out MTV. And it's so funny because I never thought about entertainment media at all, because I kept thinking that I needed to be in a traditional accounting role. And something as simple as every single business needs accounting, they need business, they need a foundation. But your brain doesn't think that way. Like when you're when you're in the midst of doing, you just don't think that. You're like, what? I was like, what the hell would I be doing at MTV? I'm like, what does that even look like?
Right.
And I got the job there, and I guess the rest is history, really.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
awesome. I mean, to your point, I think too, or I guess open to there being so many different options within one career field. But I
Yes.
feel like when we were at Howard, well, I wasn't in school of B, so I can't say for sure. But I think a lot of it was still like traditional business track. It wasn't like
Yeah.
about these other industries where you could still use these skills. So you kind of found that, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think too, because I've been back to Howard, which another full circle moment, to speak and created some partnerships with them, and I do think that they're starting to think bigger scope in the School of Business, at least,
Hmm.
as to what does a business major look like and how does it intersect with other parts of the of the world. And I think that that's really smart, and I think it speaks to the diversity and inclusion, because Howard is the Mecca. So a lot of organizations do go there for talent. So we need to be able to showcase our talent in very different ways to show how they can transition from one particular industry to another. And I think that that's part of my story too, is because then from MTV, I moved to H&M, which is another completely different industry. And I think that that's what I like to show people. We don't need to be stuck in one particular industry. As long as you have the skill set and you
Right.
can get the work done, you can be transferable wherever you want to be.
Right. Absolutely. Thank
Hmm.
everybody for joining. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or the question box.
Yes.
Um,
Hi,
yeah,
everyone.
for sure with the transferable skills. And I think I what's interesting to me, or not interesting, but now it's really popular for people to start their own businesses and be entrepreneurs.
Mm,
But what I really appreciate is that you found your calling still being in a corporate job. And
yeah.
so how has that been, or what sort of was that thinking? Did you have that moment where you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or any of that? I'm just curious.
I feel like people are waiting for me to just jump ship and start some type of business service. And I'm thinking, I'm like, guys, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm just not doing. And I don't know. I think it's probably from also like my mom's roots. Like she may God rest her soul. She's a businesswoman. I mean that's what she was doing, and she was at the top of her game. She was a managing director at the company that she was with, and I think that that's the DNA that's part of me. So I love the entrepreneurship, and I think that I'm a entrepreneur in a different non-traditional sense,
Hmm.
where I do have a brand, I do have my own platform, I am creating my own partnerships and being able to utilize my voice for influence. And all of that is entrepreneurship, and that's part of it. But I think that me being and staying in corporate space is actually creating opportunity for these entrepreneurs and small businesses.
Hmm.
And if I think about the work that we've done at H&M, and I think about the companies that small businesses that we were able to have partnerships with and introduce them to the brand. If I wasn't in that seat, that would not happen. And again, I think we talked about it earlier. What companies want is to be profitable, and they want to be sustainable. And part of that may mean having partnerships with large organizations. So if someone is not there advocating for your business,
Right.
then where would you go? And I think so. For me, that's my job. My job is to be able to bring someone like you in and say, oh, I know this person, she's great at this, why don't we give her an opportunity? And it doesn't always have to be this big headliner, expensive $1 million contract. Like,
Right.
we can give $500,000 contract to a small business, and then you're also helping them to grow, and you're building their portfolio. But if I wasn't in that seat, who would advocate for you? And
Yeah.
and I think that that's the difference.
Yeah. There's definitely, I don't know if it's strength, but it makes sense to have people on all like, at that table. Because to your
Yeah,
point, if you weren't at that table, you know,
exactly.
in their own world. So,
No, because people give opportunities really to their network, right? So if your network is linear and narrow, that's who you're always going to network with. So I think again, that's another importance of diversity and inclusion is because I'm bringing you a whole nother network, especially of Black women and magic that you've never experienced before. And I take pride in that, and I know that we would always lead with excellence. It's just a matter of someone providing the access and the opportunity. So it's so critical for businesses. I think really for us to really be everywhere. Like you need people that are going to be in the C-suite. You need people that are the heads of marketing, the heads of diversity and inclusion, the heads of communication, because that's how we bring other people in the door.
yep, I totally agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Lala, hey, Keys. Thank y'all for joining.
Hi, hey. I know I
Um,
see some people joining. Hi, guys.
Candelac said, how can candidates stand out when transitioning from other industries? I've been leading D&I at a university, but I'm interested in transitioning to DEI work in media or entertainment.
Actually, I have an opportunity that someone told me about in education. So DM me and I can see if you're interested in it. But it is in education. I know you're trying to transition to media and entertainment, but but I think a lot of it is really timing and really trying to get people to know you in those other industries. And that can be really hard because if someone is looking at your resume, they are partially looking at what kind of company you're coming from. But there's a way that you can make it more palatable for someone that's in media and entertainment. So maybe you're talking more about the number of people that you're supporting. You're talking about external partnerships that you're doing. So it's not all about educational programs or admission or things like that, but it's more about this is how this can take you to a completely different industry. And I think that even if I look at my resume, that's what I do too. I talk so much in numbers and results that you're not even paying attention to the industry because what I'm talking about is being fast paced. The fact that my return on investment equals this, the fact that we have placement in these type of publications or things like that. So I think you kind of think about how do you make that transferable as well. And then really it's the more you're out there, more people get to know you. Like, I think she just asked the question. I'm right here in this group. And even though I don't know something in media entertainment, I do know something education. And then maybe that'd be the route, and then maybe you can do something in media and education on more on the side and some type of consulting work or different projects and workshops and trainings that you can offer. Or maybe you're the bridge between the media company and the university. So I think it's really trying to figure out how you can maneuver those things until you really get to what you want it to be. Hopefully that answered the question.
That was great. And then I guess I would go further from there and say, not even just transitioning industries, but what if there's someone who doesn't work in D&I but
Yeah.
wants to get into it? How do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you have to, I think one of the things that I've noticed is that there's a lot of passion, right? But so people hate when I say this sometimes, but passion, you have to have passion, yes, but you also have to have the expertise.
Yeah.
You can't just be in diversity and inclusion because you're an activist, right? Or because you're passionate about Black and Brown people.
Mm-hmm.
There's an actual strategy that goes behind it. So how are you developing and creating that strategy? So
Mm-hmm.
what I noticed is, so again, my degree's in accounting. And from accounting, I knew that I did not want to be an accountant anymore. So when I got the role at MTV, I was doing more compliance work. And what I kept asking my boss for is people related projects. Because I
Mm.
didn't know it was diversity and inclusion yet, but going into people related projects, then I can start to think about what is the strategy for diversity and inclusion, because now I'm talking about people.
Right.
So if you're trying to transition, see how you can transition your role to be more people focused and more equality focused. And then from there, you can do your, like I told you I went back to NYU to do change management. Change management is the core of diversity and inclusion. So
Mm.
again, diversity and inclusion is not all about activism. You need to understand how do you get from point A to point B. And executive coaching, I think, is another great one too, that people can, because you do need to coach your executives to understand their behaviors and how they need to communicate to your teams, to their teams. So I would say, depending on where, what kind of role you have now, I think about what type of additional expertise you can get. So do a certificate program, do an online program, to learn more about change management, to learn more about coaching, to learn more about strategy building and any type of leadership and organization development. And really, really need to make sure that your confidence and your passion is matching your competence. Like, you can't just be passionate, and I think that this is where we get into these spaces where people think that diversity and inclusion is just trendy.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing trendy about the work that I'm doing every day. I'm tired. Like, it's not like this cute thing. Like, you're literally in the room
Right.
advocating for underrepresented groups, and it's not an easy thing to do. So I think we should stop saying that it's trendy. Is it a focal point now? It is. Is it something that we need to make sure is a priority? It is. But is it trendy? It's not.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that wording always comes from our community as well. So I think we need to make sure that we're careful about how we are lifting those that are sitting those type of roles too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We're getting a lot of HU love. We have CEO here.
Hey.
Lorna. Thank you guys.
Oh, I'm sick of it. You guys are funny.
Told the wife we can go back to H&M because they homie got us.
Yes, yes. And Keys, like, listen, it's so difficult, but like you said, it's so necessary. And I think that that's why I don't want people to undermine those that are in these roles. I think really what it is how are you amplifying their voice, and then how are you making sure those companies that they're leading are being held accountable for their work or lack of, So it is completely necessary. And we need more people, whatever we're calling it, if we're calling it diversity inclusion, if we're calling it, a lot of people are starting to call it now culture and development too, which I think is great, because I think they're trying to pull away from the stigma of diversity and inclusion. So whatever we're calling it, let's call it. But understand that it is a critical piece in your organization, and they need to be at the table when decisions are being made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Trisha said accountability.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, have to.
So it's clear to me, at least, that I would say you are working in your purpose. And
Yes.
how did you find your purpose? Like, did it just hit you one day? You're like, this is what I want to do, or was it like a journey?
No, it was definitely a journey. What happened is I was going through things personally and professionally. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the things that I was going through personally completely shifted everything that I was going through. And I think the start of it was when my mom passed away. I was a sophomore in college. And when you lose, especially like a parent, it just changes your whole outcome in life anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think soon after that, 2 years later, I lost my grandmother, my mom's mom. So I think it was just certain things in life that were completely just starting to push me in a different direction. So small things that I was like, oh, this is fun. Like it didn't excite me anymore. Right. Because I truly, truly understand that someone can be here today and not be here tomorrow. And I think when you're dealing with that and you're faced with that on a personal level, and I'm sure people, unfortunately, people have probably experienced this year with with 200,000 plus people that have lost their lives due to COVID-19, it reshapes you. And I think that that's how I started to tap into what my purpose is. And I kept thinking to myself, my mom has this incredible reputation. I'm like, so when my day is gone, what are people going to say about me? What am I going to say that I did with my time? And I think that that's where I started to walk with more intention, and my relationships are more intentional. The way that I show up with my family, with my friends, And even the conversations that I have, I mean, we all probably have many group meets and group texts and stuff. And I'm not there to police anybody, but they will see sometimes that they already know Ezinne is not going to engage,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that it's too surface, and I know why you're doing that because you haven't really dealt with anything, and I have. So, but you definitely, it takes time to find purpose, and really your life shapes you. The things that will happen to you personally will create that purpose for you, will create that level of intention, and it will force you to live differently. And if I can say, just think, it just made me think about Chadwick Boseman and him passing. And obviously we had no idea that he was battling with an illness, but I think the more that I researched what was happening, you see how even his life shifted, and
Mm-hmm.
the way that he worked and the way that he showed up, the way that he interacted with people shifted because he knew that he was battling with something, right? So again, it's your personal experiences that will shift.
Yeah.
And I don't mean wish harm on anyone, but I think you really got to think about, like, what are you doing with your time?
Mm-hmm.
And if people are draining you, or you're not happy with the relationship, with the work environment, with what, like, you can walk away. You literally can walk away. And for whatever reason, I talk to some mentees, and they're like, this place is toxic. And I'm like, but why are you there? Like, there's no advice that I can give you. And I get it. Like, we have bills and we have responsibilities, but you complaining to HR is not going to make the place less toxic. Like, you probably need to leave and figure out what that is. So I think it's really, I implore people to, like, figure out what your passion is, talk to people, um, and kind of figure out, like, what are you supposed to do with life that you can still have financial independence, but you feel like you're at least contributing to something, you know. So I think that that's really important.
Yep. Yep. He said real life tragedy brings greatness if you continue to push through.
Yes, yes. Can't waste precious time. Yes.
I would say people are totally agreeing with everything you're saying.
Yeah. Yes. Lola said, do not engage. Yes, number. Yes, Trina. Yes. Intention. Don't engage. Be like, all right, bye. I mean, they already know, but they don't even expect it from me. And then I just come back and I engage
Come
afterwards.
back later.
They know. They know.
You mentioned being poor. Were you ever a mentee, and how did that affect you as well?
Yeah, you know, like, I believe in the very non-traditional sense of mentor mentees. There's people that I talk to all the time, and then at the end of the conversation, I'm like, "You're such a great mentor." You know, it's never something. Yeah, I just throw it out there. So then the next time I talk, I'm like, "Hey, mentor." You know, I never really asked anyone formally to mentor me. I really, there's certain individuals that I watch and I kind of see what they're doing, and really take note of what that looks like. And then if I'm in certain situations, I go to them for advice, and stuff. So I definitely am a mentee. Even today, still, I'm a mentee. I have some great women, especially, that continue to lift me and really support me, especially, you know, as you get more and more advanced, and especially in corporate, it gets hard. You know, it gets hard. You are one of the only very few, and you need to have that circle of people that have been there, that are there, and they can help you navigate through that. I think another thing too is my peer mentors, just like those men and women that I can count on of different backgrounds to be like, oh, this came my way. I wanted to talk to you about it, or this situation happened. Have you ever faced it? And we can talk very informally, and I get advice and guidance from them. I think that it's so, you know, and even some people that I don't even know personally, that I may watch on social media, and really watching, like, their movements and how they place themselves. I think all of those things are forms of mentorship. And I'm a forever learner. I'm a student at heart, so I try to get as much as I can from everybody. Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
I mean, that actually even gave me some, like, oh, okay. Because I think I haven't had that conversation, like, will you be my mentor? I did once or twice, but I feel
How did
like
that go?
last time I did, she was like, yeah. And then we kind of just like fizzled out, which
Yep, see?
there's other people who I haven't like said they're my mentor, but like they're my mentor.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what happens is sometimes when people hear mentor, all of a sudden people get scared
Yeah, they're
and
like,
they feel like, yeah, like it's some tremendous obligation
yeah,
to like be someone's mentor. So that's why especially because, like if I want someone to be my mentor, it's someone that's more senior than me too, right?
mhm.
And I'm busy, so I know they're really busy. So I don't even want to use the label mentor. That they get all like, "What do you mean?" I literally just email or text and be like, "Hey, I've been having something on my mind. Would love to talk to you and get your thoughts on it." And they usually like respond immediately. That's a mentor.
Mhm.
That's someone that is supporting you and is mentoring you. And Katrina just said too, is like relationships are so important. I think when you have those relationships, when I hang up the phone and I say thanks, mentor, no one hesitates because I built that relationship, right? So it's just a more of a chuckle. Okay, I talk to you the next time you have an issue, so so I think it's really important that you build the authentic relationships and you just know that the person is there and it's a person that you can rely on. And like I said, I think tapping into your own circles of
Mhm.
peers. So it's one of those things too. Like it doesn't have to be your friend. It's just a professional someone that you look up to, and they don't need to be your friend in order to give you advice.
Right.
I think it's just someone that you trust and you believe in their competence and you know that they'll be there for you. So yeah,
I agree 100%. 100.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
guys. People are still joining. What's up, y'all? Welcome, welcome.
Yes, a lot of HU folks is here. Yes, Howard. Howard is everywhere. We represent all the time. Good to see y'all.
But it's interesting because you were talking about like relationships and circles, and I think sometimes people may even say like, "Oh, it's really hard to build relationships with these people." But I think it is kind of like looking at whatever those networks you're in. What school did you go to?
Yeah.
Places you worked. Like, how did you, kind of forge and build some of these relationships that you have?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is, I mean, one of the secret sauces is people like for you to compliment them, right?
Yes.
Yes, they like that you in the know of what they've been doing. Like so if someone comes back and says, "Oh, Nikki, I saw that you were speaking with Ezinne," it's gonna be like, "Oh, you saw that? You
Hey,
watched?"
hi. Oh my God.
Exactly.
That's
So I
so
think so something like I know something like that, it seems so petty and so simple, but it goes a long way because then as they like, oh, like, okay, well, how did that get about? And how did you start this conversation and this platform you're using? That's how it starts, right? And then before you know it, you're mentoring, you're giving advice, you're showing up for this person. And that's how you're building the relationship. So I think that what does happen is like, what is the common interest?
hmm
You want something from me, but what am I getting from you?
yeah.
What am I benefiting with our relationship? And
hmm
again, it doesn't have to be something that's compensation worth or anything like that. But maybe you're opening me to another network that I didn't have. Maybe you're going to do an introduction. Maybe you're sharing me a very tangible article because you saw that I was complaining about something or whatever it may be. So I think you find these little moments of where you can connect. And I think the people that were strangers of mine that I now have relationships with, even if they're still a bit more social, because maybe I haven't met them in person. I think that sometimes is the difference because I noticed their name and like it will come up or again, like I said, they're sharing articles with me. They're telling me, I saw that you were featured here and I love this quote that you said, so it's not just I saw you here, but they're actually telling me what they learned from it, right? Or they're asking me more in building. And that's how you build those relationships. And I think too, in the relationships that I have, I just really expressing gratitude. Like
Yeah.
I said, these women are more senior than I am. So it's like just to be able to say thank you for making time for me and
hmm
seeing me and helping me navigate through that too. So I think it's also being quick with your acts, like what do you need? How do you need it? I think it's a bunch of different things, but as long as you're consistent with it without being a burden, I think that also can help as well.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I would just like to thank you because for those who don't know, Ezinne is one of the people who pushed me to even start this conversation series.
Oh my God.
I
Well, you have to, yes, because we were
probably like
talking about, yes,
March or April.
imposter syndrome kicked in and she didn't want to do it.
I
Yes.
saw you on the slide. That was great. I thought about it. And Ezinne was like, do it. Just start it. And I was like,
Yeah.
guess so. I guess I
Yeah.
could. You appreciate it.
And wasn't that like right in the beginning of when we were starting to do shelter in place and everything?
It was. It was right in the
Yep.
beginning. And I think you were talking about, I forget who you were with, but like, I think hair in the workplace or like natural hair in the workplace.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I
I think
just,
Vernon, who he was here earlier too. I don't know if he's still here, but yes.
yes, yes, yes. So
Hmm.
it was that. And so that kind of took me there. But thank you for encouraging me because it's great. And I just love connecting this and like sharing other people's stories. So thank
Yeah.
you, Ezinne.
Of course, yeah, and I think that what happens too is, I mean, it gets the best of us, with imposter syndrome and
Mm-hmm.
not knowing like what to say. It happens to me all the time because I'm like, things can go viral in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you don't want to say anything crazy, you don't want to look crazy, yeah. So you're second guessing yourself. You're like, who's gonna show up and what they gonna say? And it's always. I remember someone told me before that they hated having birthday parties as a kid because they never know who was going to show up because that's like really traumatizing for a child. And I think it's kind of like one of those things, you just got to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always say, and I'm a firm believer, whoever is meant to see it will see it, whoever is meant to be there will be there. And
Yep.
then however it's supposed to go from there, it will go. So as long as you're feeling like you're contributing and you're freeing yourself, I think that's the best you can do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also it's something if you feel called to do, because when I had this conversation with you, like I had the idea and I kind of felt like, oh, this is something I should do, but I didn't know like any of the logistics, like who am I going to talk to?
All
How's it going
right.
to go? I
And
got that.
now you're an expert. How many have you done so far? Do you
Um,
remember?
now we're about like 14 in, 14 or
See?
15.
See? That's
Crazy.
good. That's good. That was good.
Y'all can't find because I didn't even know how to save my story. So I don't even.
That's funny.
Oh man. But so with your experience in DNI, what are some so two things. One, what are some of the most challenging experiences you've had to work through? And then
Mm.
some of your most like, I can't believe, I did that. I'm so proud that I was a part of this moment.
Yeah, whew, that's so hard. I told you it's real out here. I keep telling
Yeah.
people like it's real. I think the most challenging is really continuing to walk into the room and only see yourself. I don't think people in the majority truly understand how that feels, regardless of how welcoming you are and regardless of how much it's like, oh no, of course I support you and everything. It's kind of like, but I have to over explain who I am, what I do, what I mean,
Hmm.
instead of me. I think Bozana St. John said it before. Like when I walk into a room, I don't have to explain anything. Like you get it. You immediately just get it. So the effort that it takes to do that is a lot. And I think the other thing that's really critical is you are in the marginalized group, but you are also the one responsible for bringing forth change.
Yeah.
And that is hard. And you're essentially trying to, and I don't want to say convince in a negative sense because it's not like I'm dealing with like racist or anything like that, right? I think people just trying to figure out how do we get there.
Mhm.
But you're still convincing of the fact that it's important, it's a priority, it needs this type of investment. We need to go forward with this. No, it's not a risk. It's an obligation. So I think that those are the kind of things for me that tend to be is difficult because it's also continuous. I can have a successful conversation with you today, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, she got it. Like she got it. She's in. And then tomorrow, if it's not you, it's someone else that's just like you, and then I'm having the conversation all
Oh,
over again. Yeah, so I think that ends up being a bit of a challenge to go through, which is why I said I think people like you need to be passionate, but you need to have a strategy when you want to do diversity and inclusion work. So that's probably the hardest is you want that right hand person or you want someone there that can speak on your behalf, and it's not always you and I remember if I can think back to when George Floyd was murdered and just watching the video, and then couple of days later, you saw a lot of companies coming out with Black Lives Matter statements, and I think H&M, we were trying to figure out like what we're gonna do. And I'm sitting here like, y'all do whatever the f y'all want to do, because I'm so done.
I'm always representative. Like,
Oh my God. I was like, I don't care what you do because we need justice and we need justice now. Like this is disgusting. Like that's where my mind was. And I realized though that people were counting on me to make sure were counting on me to make sure show up. Am I getting a call?
yep.
People are counting on me to make sure that they show up as well. So I think that is, the toggle that you have to play is that we're often the ones that are tapped on to push and to solution, but it takes so long for us to see the benefits of that. So, but in contrast, I think one of the things that was amazing to me, I think I talked a little bit about the partnerships that I've been able to bring in house, which
Hmm.
have been fantastic, and celebrating things. I think specifically about H&M, celebrating things like Black History Month and Women's Awareness, and doing more for Pride than just collab collections and things like that. So I love that we're able to bring those cultural awareness opportunities there. So it's not just about socializing and happy hour, but what am I making sure that people are learning from these things that are sacred to us, right? And then I think the other thing too is what I was really proud of is the company publicly declaring commitments.
Mm.
First time ever that they shared their demographics publicly. First time ever that they shared the commitments publicly. So I think that goes such a long way because we talked about accountability before, right? So when you put it out there,
Right.
now you got millions of people that are not going to hold you accountable to what you're
Right.
talking about. So those are definitely some highlights, and there's plenty more. I mean, I think like working with people and they more of like the junior staff and they see you and you just see the hope in their eyes, and I'm happy to be able to serve as their ambassador and their change agent and their leader to know that as long as I'm in that room, like shit is just not gonna fly. So
Right.
and take it how you want, but you already know if Ezinne is there, like it's just not going down. So
Yes, Lola said you've done so much work, and I agree. You've done.
oh, thank you. Lola's my number. She be pushing me. See, that's another like, you have to have your peer supporters and
Yep.
we have a mentor-mentee relationship back and forth and back. So I always appreciate her lifting my spirits and my voice too. Thanks,
Oh, that's
number.
awesome. So, what do you think is some of the best advice you've received?
Oh, okay. I think relevant to this conversation, I think one of the best advice is your network matters. I think a lot of times people like, oh, I'm gonna put my head down, I'm gonna get my work done.
Mm.
You need to do more. Like when you start looking for those promotions and you want to be recognized and you want to be a people manager and you want to have this big team, those jobs are not going to the people that have their head down. Those
Yeah.
jobs are going to people that are leaders, people that are contributing to the conversation, people that are motivating teams, people that are taking the initiative, that are solutions driven, that are inclusive leaders. That's where they're going to. So I think like someone was telling me that the advice that they gave me is like, make sure people know you. Make sure when you're in the room, your voice is being heard. Make sure that you are contributing to the conversation. And I will never, ever, ever forget that. And this is what I do all the time. So if anyone has ever been in a meeting with me, I probably contributed some way. Like I don't, even as much as I hate meetings, I don't just sit there. Like I make sure that I'm in tune and I am participating because you want people to mention your name when you're not in the room. So
Hmm.
if they don't know you and don't know what you're doing, it's going to be hard for them to do that. And I think that that's challenging, especially for Black women,
Hmm.
because, and I said it all the time, like I'm super humble, right? So who wants to be there bragging about you did this and you did that? But sometimes we do need to brag hard because we're busting our ass and we need people to recognize that and we need people to elevate us. So I think definitely a big advice is your network does matter. So
Yeah.
really look around and see who's around you, who is speaking your name in your absence.
Hmm. That's so true. And then question to you, I guess sort of following up. So you said, you don't want to be the person who just was head down working. I think beyond that, at least in some of my experience too, it's like it also sort of helps if you're also the person who will go outside of work and do, like, if people are grabbing lunch together, go grab lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Going to happy hour, you may not drink, but just go for a second to say, I think even that, because that shows another side of you and
Yeah.
makes you more human to people you work with.
Agreed. And then I think the other thing too is if that's not your thing, maybe you suggest something and then you get other people to go, right? So I'm not a coffee drinker. So when everyone goes for their coffee runs, I usually don't go, but I like to take a stroll in the afternoon. So then that's when I'm bringing people along, say, hey, I'm about to just go walk around the corner. Do you
Mhm.
want to just go with me? So I think like you got to find, maybe you don't like happy hour, but you like bowling. Like, what is your thing that you can bring people a part of? I think too, you just made me remember, it's like, tell people what you're doing outside of work, and as long as it's, I think a lot of company, just make sure it's like non-compete and you're showing that you're performing. But I sit on the board of directors for a nonprofit organization, and I think I need to share that with people, because again, it shows the type of leader that I am and that I have expertise that are really vast, and you can show that by showing people other work that you're doing.
Right.
So I think that that's important as well.
Yeah, I agree. Well, our time is slowly winding
That
down.
was fast.
I know. It always goes so fast. In the beginning, it's
Yeah.
like, about this time. And then
Yeah.
um,
And I can also talk for hours. So,
so what are some things either that you do have in store or that you would like to come about in the future?
what do I have in store like to come about in the future? I would love to take like 1 year off, but that's not happening. um, you
Yeah.
know, that's a really, I don't know, but I really don't know. But I think that what I say is that the future is bright. The future is bright. I'm here to see what the future has for me. I am gonna make sure that I keep delivering with excellence and utilizing my platform to advocate for change, especially in corporate. Um, but what I would love to see happen is that we continue to make real progress when it comes to representation. I think across all industries, I am tired of being the first. I am tired of it just being a small number of us. And we're, like I said, we're the doers, we're the workers, we're the solution, we're everything. And
Hmm.
I think that our allies really need to step up and put action where their words are. So I mean, to me, that's the future. Like, we need true change. We need true justice. And we need everyone to go vote, but not only vote, but really continue to educate yourself and really understand like what's going on in the world, and don't get caught up just in the celebrity news, but really be present, because we have a generation behind us that is waiting for us to really show up and to do better. So I'm still optimistic of the future. I mean, this year has given me a lot of anxiety, but I'm an optimistic person, so I will stay grounded and keep my eyes open to the prize. I think it's still, every time I'm like, it's like there's still so much to go. My goal is to be a COO. Like, that's my, yeah, yeah, I know. Put it out there.
Coming. We'll speak it right.
Yes, yes. COO or CEO of a, not just a little small business, $1 billion business. So we're gonna keep climbing that ladder until they kick me out. That's it.
They're not gonna pick you up. They're gonna have something beyond that when you get there.
They crazy to kick me out. I'm the prize.
Okay, actually, I just have one more question as you were
Mhm.
talking. Um, Going back to, so we spoke about, if you want to transition into D&I or if you want to sort of help your company essentially from the bottom talking to upper management. What if you're sort of up there and this is your company and you're trying to figure out how to incorporate it more? Like, what are some
Yeah.
steps to take to, change the culture of your company?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to do is do something. Like you have to do something. So whether you're hiring someone to lead the function or you're going to still kind of manage the way it is, I think it's really important that to take action.
Hmm.
And definitely, I think write it down. Like if you're not going to make it public to the universe, at least make it public to your organization so
Yeah.
that they know that you're taking this seriously and you want to create some goals behind it. So one of the things that I've even pushed for the brand to do as well is diversity and inclusion goals need to be part of company goals. Like it's not just Ezinne's goals. Like put it part of the entire, every time you're doing a full, here's our sales plan, here's our customer retention, whatever it is,
Yeah.
put diversity and inclusion in there. And I think that that's the difference. I think another thing too is a lot of people, diversity and inclusion, I do believe starts from the top bottom because they're the ones that's managing culture. But I don't think that you have to have a certain title in order to push for change. I think it's one of those things where you share like what some of the gaps are, but you're also present to provide solutions or even to join a task force or whatever it may be. So you're not just the person that's, oh, here, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And, you know, you're doing that and all you're doing is venting because that's how it's going to come off. But you're saying, I've noticed this. This is what the conversation has been. After I spoke to X amount of people, this is what we concluded. And then you say, here are some of our recommendations. How can we support you in getting there? And
Right.
the times where it's happened to me, majority, to be honest, the majority of like the engagement activities that even came to life at H&M is because the staff had
Mm.
those ideas. They're the ones that said, hey, what do you think about this? I think this will work out great. Hey, I talked to X amount of people. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Thanks.
Yeah.
We're doing it. What do you want to do? Like, do you want to be a part of it? Do you want to just show up? Do you want to speak? Do you have a, like what, how do you want to be involved? Because again, I'm not going to steal someone's idea. I'm going to make sure that they get the credit
Right.
and they can be involved as much as they want to be involved. But I think when you empower your teams to think in that manner, this is all diversity and inclusion. So I'm including their voices and their perspective into the work that we're trying to do. And what happens is now you should see them like they're so empowered. They have 100 million different ideas and activities and whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. Your responsibility as a leader is to create more leaders.
Hmm.
And if you can do that, then the job is done.
That's so powerful. But it's so true. It's so, so true because to your point, like we're not all going to be here forever. So you
Yeah.
want those behind you to be empowered. So,
Exactly.
well, thank you, Ezinne. I appreciate
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come, and thank you for you utilizing your platform to elevate mine. I appreciate you.
you, of course. Thank you for the inspiration in the beginning. Oh, Chantel said, you don't have to be a certain title to push for change. Empower your team. Yes to all of this. Great advice.
Yes, yes, yes. And Chantel's doing amazing things on the hill, so we see you.
Yeah, Lola, amazing. So thank you guys for joining. Do you have any last words of wisdom? We have a little time if you want to drop anything else. You drop some.
Yeah, I'm losing my light, which is so funny. The fall is already here, but and yeah, so anyway, but I just want to tell everyone, listen, thank you so much for prioritizing this conversation and for joining us and really supporting Nikki and this conversation that she's trying to have to elevate stories of people that look like us. So I hope you feel inspired. I hope you took something away from this, and always stay lifted. It's some challenging times here, but find your joy, and it's okay to be in that moment and to walk away when you need to. So stay lifted, stay blessed, and thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Of course. Thank you so much, Ezinne.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye.